Okay, so we're on to our third item, products, product development, things that are actually being offered to the workforce to help support them, right, and with their performance and learning needs. We have a lot of things in process, and this was actually the area where I was hoping for a lot more interaction in this presentation because it lends itself to it, and wanted to get feedback from some of you on some of the things we have going right now. But a couple of things. First of all, we have our portal interface that many of you see if you go to dau.mil on your device, and that's for the iPad as well. You will see our interface that people will see on their device, and it's different from our main website, but it is pulling directly from the site. And there's some areas under the training and education, job support and tools that are actually very specific to mobile, and we're now trying to retrofit them so they also can be accessible on the desktop for those who don't have devices. If you look at the interface, you can tell it's getting dated, and so we are in the middle of a redesign right now, but along with that redesign, we are focusing on making our iCatalog mobile, our campus maps, all of the class schedules. We're working to get them all intertwined so that they will all be available through the mobile device in a meaningful user experience. Right now they are not. But that's part of our next upgrade, and that's probably going to be completed in February of 2013. However, we're going live with the pieces and parts along the way. So you should see a new interface. And we are definitely taking feedback from, when you look at the bottom where there's a mobile poll, we're trying to pull information from users that way and integrate it into the solution, because as we said before, Dr. Clark Quinn said one of our areas of weakness seems to be gathering feedback from the users. We have a couple of items up there that I wanted to draw close attention to. First, under training and education on the portal, there's a couple of games, and there's also a module we've put out there, and it's called CLL037. This is built in jQuery Mobile. It is a module, which is 3 to 4 hours of online training for us, that someone said, hey, we're not going to take it live, but the information's still good. So we had a designer take it and break it down into very small lessons to offer through a device, and we're anxious to get feedback on that. A lot of us didn't look too highly on the idea at first, but we're finding that it might not be a bad solution, and it actually tracks progress and everything. Also, we're starting to realize that we can leverage the iTunes U Store more to deliver items, because that is naturally mobile ready. And we are also working on a project with Judy Brown and Mike Ruska for a spaced learning opportunity, and it's internal right now. It's the top 10 teaching tips that were gathered from different professors in our organization, and we want to deliver those to people over a 30 to 60 day period to see what impact it has on their performance. We're also excited, I mentioned this earlier, to partner with GIFCOM. JKO Mobile is something they have where you download the app, and they only use a PIN number to connect to the learning management system, so they are not transferring data back and forth, which requires a lot more DICAP and all of these other security measures. And so we're hoping to work with them to get some of our offerings through that, to find out what the feedback is, to find out if people like downloading the learning activity on the go and then uploading their final progress at the end. Not associated to their name, but associated to a PIN. So that's an interesting project that's coming along. Would love if you would go to your device, dau.mil, click around and see if there are areas that are of interest to you, and if you have any feedback, please do feel free to share. We're anxious to hear it. Last but not least, it's important to perform, and it's especially important in organizations, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you've got to make money, you've got to have a good product or service. There has to be a reason that you're doing what you do, and everyone that is working toward that organizational goal needs to know what that goal is and be able to ultimately perform that goal at the highest of levels, and obviously down at the tactical level. And so it's very important to focus on the performance outcomes that are possible. Right now, we are obviously at a point where Most of us are on the go. We are used to having this device tethered to us, what other shape or form it is in, and it helps us whether our car's broken down, whether we want to take pictures, whether we want to share with a friend, whether we need to collaborate with someone on the road, whether we're just learning to keep up with our skills. And now it truly is any age, any task, anywhere, anytime. And it's something we expect, actually. I had the experience a few weeks ago where I needed to go present at a very small conference in Washington, D.C. It was a holiday. The trains weren't working on their regular schedule, and along with that, they were doing train work. And because of that, I was late and stalled in a station, even though I'd left 2 or 3 hours earlier. So I took my iPad out, checked out on the maps where I needed to be and where I was, and I ran out of the station and ran that mile to the appropriate spot, and I got there 5 minutes before I was to present. Truly, this was something that helped me at the point of need where I could perform. Most recently, I know that I am working at DAU to finish up some defense acquisition certifications that I should have finished long ago, but I'm getting through the appropriate levels for program management at this time. And so I'm signed up for a couple of our courses. Now that's always a good thing, right? When the person that's working in the learning organization now has to sign up for the products that they've been creating. And so I was in 2 courses, Program Manager Toolkit and Contracting Fundamentals. And as I'm going through these courses, I'm thinking, oh my word, I would love to have not the course necessarily on mobile, but just there were so many pieces of information that I didn't need to memorize, but it would be great to have in front of me to remind me before I went into a meeting or before I started a project, or if someone had a question about contracting, to just have a resource I could go and look that up. Now in the courses, luckily, by lesson, we have saved those as PDFs. And so what I found myself doing is downloading those, then emailing them to myself so I could look at them on the iPad and study them that way. Of course, I had to make sure to click all the appropriate buttons in the system so that the SCORM circles would fill in. But I wanted to be able to sit back and scroll through it the way I wanted to. And then I also wanted portions available for after the fact. And so taking those courses was a great revelation to me of the importance of having those key concepts and reminders available, and something that would help me to connect to those links that I'm provided within the course that I'm going to have to access later. For example, in the contracting course, the FAR and DFAR connections, because these are like the Bible of what contractors must reference as far as contracting law going forward. And so I was realizing how I was loving PDF, and whether you put the reflow capabilities and all of that in or not, just the availability of having it at my point of need. Another recent experience from the mobile portal that I was just sharing with you about a few minutes ago, we brought in answers to the questions on our Ask a Professor site, and that's something that, like Ask Jeeves or one of those sites where people ask a professor and professors do come up with answers. Now we realize that the form factor is not for editing, like the professors wouldn't go on their device to do this, but we were shocked at the number of people that were accessing the answers while they were on the go and from our portal. And we found this out because one of our team members looked up in Google Analytics in their account, and they're like, well, wait a second, people are accessing this from their device, and they're looking up for the answers. And so that was important information for us to know going forward. Well, how can we also make it possible for the instructors to access this information and edit it on the go? Because people were starting to use it as a real resource, not from the desktop as we had first thought, but elsewhere. Just wanted to say thank you for participating today. Wish I could have been there and had more of a conversation. I think this presentation could have gone in a lot of different directions with your involvement, but you can comment if you'd like, or contact me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It was not all inclusive to everything that we're doing, but wanted to just talk about a few key areas where we are learning lessons and applying them. Would love if you would join our monthly interagency working group that DAU has partnered with ADL to deliver. And you can contact me at rebecca.clark@dau.mil or mobile@dau.mil. Also, join me on Twitter at LearnEmergency. And we look forward to hearing more from you, and enjoy DevLearn.